Hey folks, welcome to Good Story Live. I'm Jesse Mulbauer. It is July 26th, I think, or something, 28th of 2022. Ginger knows these things better than I do. Ginger, help me out here.
My gosh, it is Thursday, July 28th, sir. Thursday, July 28th.
Let's go with what she said.
I know the days and the weeks and the months are flying by, but we're not quite there yet.
See, you're a mom. You need to know these things. You need to know dates and things and when things happen. And Jesse's just out here living his life.
Responsible for people, yeah.
Yes, responsible for lives needing to be fed and bathed and things like that.
Keeping tiny humans alive. Yeah.
Yes. We have an exciting show here, folks. We are thrilled to have our guest. Our guest is Rafael Silva. Rafael, how are you, sir?
Good. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Rafael's been in some very exciting projects. We're going to talk all about them. We're going to hear some of the stories behind them and how he came from Colombia to Boston to wherever he is now, to Hollywood, essentially, and found his way to, fulfilling his dream. So, Rafael, hang with us. We'll be back to you in a couple minutes, all right?
All right.
All right, Ginger, what do you say? Should we get the show on the road?
Let's do it.
All right, folks, let's do it. You're watching Good Story Live. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Glad you could join us right here on Good Story Live. Right, Ginger? That's the show.
Yes, that's the show, Good Story Live. We've been doing this for a little while now, it feels like.
One would think we'd know what we're doing by now, but really, very little improvement has been made.
I was going to say, it's anybody. I mean, yeah. We're getting there.
Yeah, so incremental improvements.
We're consistently here.
Yes.
I'd say that's
one of us is, at least. Those first couple episodes were shaky as far as Jesse was concerned, but Ginger carried us through.
How have you been, Jesse? What's been going on?
Good. I've been well. I had a fun life experience as of recent. Fun is a very strange way of putting it. I got married. Exciting would have been a better way of. Not to say it wasn't fun. It was both exciting and fun and life-changing and phenomenal and all the other adjectives that you want to put in there.
Fun is not. I don't know if I'm say that because, and I don't know if we've said this on here yet, but I used to be a wedding photographer. So fun, exciting is the adjective that I would have used, not necessarily fun initially, or that wouldn't have been the first one that I go to. But I know you guys had a wonderful time, and it was a great, yeah.
We did have a wonderful time. I'm going to tell you all about it. But first, there's this strange noise that I'm hearing, and I don't know if it's being picked up on the mic. I'm just going to go check and see. I think I know what it is. So I'm going to turn you over to the audience just for like 5 to 10 seconds. So
Jesse's just going to disappear.
I'm going to disappear for like 5 to 10 seconds, folks. I'm going to check on what that noise is. Like I said, I think I know what it is. I will be right back. Otherwise, it's going to keep going. All right. So, Ginger, You're on.
Sounds wonderful. So, yeah, I was in another life. I mean, this life, but at another time, a wedding photographer. And so I, like I said, don't know that I would ever describe. There are fun weddings, of course, but that wouldn't have been the first word that I would have gone with. So it's funny. Did you figure out what the noise is?
Yes, it was fine. The air cooling system in this building tends to make a strange noise under certain situations, and that's what was happening. So everything's fine.
I'm glad to hear everything's fine. Nothing's gonna blow up.
You were a wedding photographer. I forgot that.
Yeah, I was.
Before I get into my wedding, I want to know, what was that like for you on your end? Was it all pressure and crazy like I would imagine?
Once I feel pressure and crazy for like the first one or two, like the first handful. But when you do like 100 plus weddings, you kind of get in your rhythm and you become the professional, right? And that's what they're paying you for. And you I like to think me and my ex played good cop, bad cop. I was bad cop, he was good cop. And so
okay.
I was, when it came to family photos, I was like, you stand here, you do this.
Like, no, I know you just walked down the aisle, but we missed it. So go up to the altar and do it again.
Yeah, less so with the family and like the bride and groom, and more so with the bridal party.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. You really only had to do that with bridal party, because bridal parties there, like they do their role and then they're like, whew, it's done. I can have a good time and I can relax. And yeah, that's when that would come out. But it was a lot of fun. It definitely impacted what I wanted to do for my own wedding and getting married and whatnot. It definitely made me I didn't want a big wedding. In fact, Kevin and I just went down to essentially the courthouse one day and got married with just our son, and that was it. And then told everybody days later. In fact, I forgot that I hadn't told people, and I had one of those little like end of year wrap ups, because it was right before Christmas. I did one of those end of year wrap ups with emojis in stories, and I put in December Mr. and Mrs. and I had people messaging me saying, "Did you get married?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I did. I didn't tell anybody."
That would have been a funny insert at the end. It was like, oh, and Kevin and I got married this year. So happy holidays. Hope all's well.
Ta-da! Yeah. It was good times.
Good. Well, we were thrilled with our wedding photographer. She was wonderful, very professional, and she helped out in more than just the photos. She was there for pinning the boutonniere on me. That's not a stutter, folks. I was trying to remember what it's called. And the little ones for the kids and all the, and we were having difficulty with mine. Poe made them. My wife Poe, she did a lot of the flower work herself, and she
gorgeous.
Mine very big and robust, and was having a little trouble staying upright. So the wedding photographer went at it with pins and stuff, and it stayed upright. It looked great. So
yeah,
she was great. She was very helpful.
I'm so glad.
It was a great wedding. It was fun. It was relaxed. We had it near the lake where I live, and at a nice restaurant. Small gathering of family and friends. It was lovely. It was very relaxed and fun, which is what we wanted.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad for you guys, because those can be stressful days. But I'm so glad it was enjoyable, or there can be a lot of stress leading up to it. But when the day itself is enjoyable, that's all that matters. And
that's how when I described it. We loved it, and we're glad it's over.
How funny. How funny. So normally, we do a question.
Yes.
On this show.
Which you have not filled me in on yet.
Yeah. And so I'm just gonna dive right into it, because it's not really a question. I mean, it is, because I'm gonna ask you something. Yeah. But so I was watching last night an older movie. I was watching You've Got Mail.
Oh. To Ginger, that's an old movie, folks. Go ahead.
I know. Look, there are much older movies. If you go to jessemuhlbauer.com and you go to his might be the Conversation with Jesse, where he tells you all of his favorite movies, at the bottom there are some real old ones there. But look, we're going back to the 90s. It's the 90s, right? Yeah.
I love the 90s. I'm giving you, a hard time on this. I love 90s films. So yes. You've Got Mail. I've seen it. I've actually seen it recently. So this will be good. Hopefully we'll know what you're going to discuss.
Yeah. Well, so I have not watched it in a while either, but I saw that it was streaming and that it's not going to be streaming after July 31st. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and watch it. And man, it brought me back to so many experiences from growing up. Especially at the beginning of, the internet and getting AOL. Online and AOL, right? America Online.
Yes.
And do you remember? So in the movie, Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, their characters are emailing back and forth. Right. The feeling that you got when you opened up America Online AOL and you heard that You Got Mail was so exciting, right?
Yes.
then later in the movie, there's a moment when they're instant messaging. Is that what it was called back then? You know what I'm talking about? Like they were
I
instant
think it
messaging.
was AOL Instant Message. Yeah.
Yeah. And it made me, there was so much like nostalgia in that movie. Like it brought back those feelings of being online and like waiting to see if like somebody that you had a crush on or a friend was online, and just like all of that excitement and butterflies and you know what yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of
It was the original version of much more limited of the blue dot
yeah,
on Facebook or LinkedIn, that sort of thing. The business
yeah.
side of Jesse's. So like, who cares about LinkedIn? I care about LinkedIn. Yeah, you know, that excitement of wondering if someone you want to connect with is online and getting that notification.
Yeah, and just how different it is to today, right?
Right.
And our experience of I mean, now everybody's online, right? You and in some apps, you can like Instagram, you can see when somebody's active.
Yes.
But it's a completely different experience. And it
Right.
just brought me back to um that moment in time, and
Because it was
kind
brand
of
new.
oh yeah. And I guess so my question was going to be to you,
Okay.
do you have a movie, or right, are there movies or films that instantly bring you back and like transport you to times that maybe aren't at the forefront of your mind, but that have some nostalgia element? Um, more from, yeah, I'm gonna say like, well, you can pick from whatever time period in your life, but
Hmm.
there were so many moments in that movie. I'll share some more after, or I can share some while you're thinking about yours, if you'd like.
Well, a lot of films give me, and I tend to watch ones that are sentimental or give me nostalgic. But the ones that give me the most nostalgia are definitely from the 90s, because that was the era in which I grew up. I was born in the 80s. I remember the
Yeah.
90s. Yeah. It's funny because before I answered that, what you talked about reminded me of a very strange situation with a stranger early on that I experienced that I hadn't thought of in years until you just brought this up. This is fascinating.
Isn't
I
it?
this is very odd, and hopefully I won't get whoever it is in trouble, although I would imagine they've moved on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Early on, when I got the internet at my house as a youngster, I do not remember what year it was, but it was very, very early on in all of this. Okay. I'm slowly getting the memories back. It couldn't have been. It wasn't in the 90s. It was a little
Mhm.
later.
Yeah. It would have probably been a little later that I was online as well.
I
Either
was actually
late
I
90s.
was in my teens. That's right. I
Yeah.
remember this now. I was in my teenage years, so it wasn't in the 90s, but like in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
But still, I mean,
Which
you know,
all of
broadband.
this was still applicable, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just kind of kicked dial-up out the door. Broadband was really big and exciting. You could stream movies online, which was a huge, you know, thing without waiting for them to
Mhm.
buffer forever if you had good internet. Um,
Which who did back then? I mean, like,
oh,
the early 2000s was when you were starting to get good internet.
correct. Remember the box with all the green dots,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
just wait for all of them to slowly come on because you had to reboot the internet every time, seemingly, because it kept
Yeah.
getting
And
disconnected.
before that, getting booted off the internet when somebody
Right.
called the house, if you didn't have 2 lines, like, and this is part of, I don't know if this is what spurred my interest to watch You've Got Mail, but
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok where a guy was explaining to his daughter AOL and the fact that like you had a CD and you had to install the software, and then like you had like
And remember they would mail them to you sometimes? You'd get them in the
yes.
mail, or there'd be in like a box of cereal. You'd get
Mhm.
that with like, oh, you get a free 10 hours of AOL and an
Yeah.
encyclopedia. So it was the weirdest thing looking back, but at the time it was so cool.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Hmm. But
You're
here's
going,
the
I'm
thing.
sorry.
So in early 2000s, I was on tech support. I was chatting. I was doing an early chat with someone on tech support.
Mhm.
And we'll mention the company, but like I said, I doubt she still works there, so it doesn't matter. This was a couple decades ago, right? I chatted with this woman, and she was helping me with some problem I was having. She worked for AT&T.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we had a nice chat because we had to wait for different things to download and fix, as you did back then, to, I would say, a greater extent than you do even now.
Oh, yeah.
So we had some time to chat back and forth, and it got personal. And I don't mean, inappropriate. I'm just asking questions about each other's lives and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a nice chat, lovely chat. Well, a couple days later, of course, she had my email because she was going to follow up with, see if I had any questions, but it was going to be a form email just to ping back in case I had any follow-ups. She
Mm-hmm.
wrote me a personal email saying how much she enjoyed chatting with me and what a great experience it was, and she hoped to keep in touch. And I was like, look at that.
Yeah.
Now, before everyone freaks out and be like, underage, whatever, I wasn't. I'm pretty sure I was, at least 16 by this point, which,
Mm-hmm.
again, it was nothing sexual. It was just a
Yeah,
conversation. I found out she lived in India. And so I'd ask questions about her culture and about her life. She had asked questions about where I lived. And we found out we had similar interests in the books that we like and so forth. So for a very short time, I started an email correspondence with this woman in India who worked for AT&T about just our common interests. And it
Yeah.
never went anywhere from that. And it was, I can't remember how it ended. Probably I got busy, she got busy, and nothing ever came of that.
Life, yeah.
I hope she didn't get in trouble. I know that, it could leave some people with a bad taste of thinking where it could have gone, but it was very platonic, and it was nice to chat with someone,
Mm-hmm.
in real time, someone overseas who had similar interests. It was very cool at that time. And now what do? We jump on Zooms every day with people all around the world, and we don't think a thing of it. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, and that was part of the thing. And You've Got Mail, right? They're chatting with people, someone that they have no idea of the personal details, where this person lives.
yeah.
But they're having it's essentially a pen pal, right? It was, you had a pen pal.
Had a pen pal
But
in a little while.
Yeah, it just reminded me and made me think of how life has shifted in wonderful ways, and we have so many wonderful things. But I'm sentimental, and watching those movies also makes me miss a slower time and a slower paced life.
Before
Where we're
instant communication, the endless
before,
assault with
yes.
social
Mhm.
media. Agreed. I agree with that.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a type of nostalgia, specifically in the 90s, because I believe that was kind of the last decade before everything upended and became different in so many different ways.
Mhm.
People say, oh, you shouldn't over romanticize certain decades, especially if you came to maturity and terms about your life in that decade. But
Mhm.
I think, objectively speaking, a lot can be said about the 90s that are positive and the last of a type of era that we might never see again. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there are some movies that I watch from that time period where they're a little cringe for me, like, to watch. They're a little cringe for me to watch.
Sure.
But, like, the romantic, sentimental side of me, there's also a lot of love for things that were created in that period as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel
Yeah.
a lot of sentiment whenever I rewatch Jurassic Park, which came out in '93, one of my favorite films. I watched
Mhm.
very young, had a tremendous impact on me. Yeah, there's other ones. I'd have to think about how that would have actually. That's a good choice that you had. Who's Got Mail? Because
You've Got Mail, yeah.
yeah, that really described and set the last of an era. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, I know.
And who doesn't love Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan?
I know. I love both of them. If you haven't watched You've Got Mail recently, maybe go check it out. But it was good. I enjoyed it. There were a lot of, like, smiling and giggling to myself moments, which I love it when a movie makes me do that, when you just can't help but, like, cheese at it.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Was there you said, was there another moment in the movie that gave you some thought?
I mean, for me, it was really the movie as a whole. I don't know. Because, there's I'm assuming that most people know the plot of You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
And so I'm not giving anything away.
Or they could
But
read it on IMDb. So
you could read about it on IMDb. This is very true. It's just not like I don't know. It made me miss, like I said, a slower time, a slower pace of life.
we sound like our parents and grandparents back in my
I
day.
know. And like I'm not trying to. Like but yeah.
But it's inevitable. I mean, I think from a sociological perspective, we all eventually want the simpler, period of our times to go back to, even as technology marches forward.
Yeah, but it's a good reminder that you can always do that in certain, like you have the power to always like take a step back and slow down.
Right.
It's hard to nowadays in a faster paced world where everything is instant and it requires a huge amount of intentionality when you do it.
Yeah.
But it is possible for sure. But yeah, go watch it. It's good if you haven't watched it. Next, that prompted me thinking, okay, like what other movies am I going to watch? Am I going to watch Sleepless in Seattle? Am I going to go like an Tom Hanks, Billy Crystal?
Sleepless in Seattle. Such a great movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleepless in Seattle. For whatever, oh gosh, what is it called?
While You Were Sleeping?
No, but that's another one. City Slickers, completely different movie than what do you remember that movie? That's very different.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Jurassic Park for that matter too. Like it's making me want to go back and watch some of these movies from the 90s.
Do you remember, did you ever watch Glengarry Glen Ross? Came out in 92. A lot of famous people. So many famous names in that.
Really?
One of the greatest sales movies ever made. Very much a dialogue-driven film, but really spectacular. Love Glengarry Glen Ross.
I'll have to look at that one too.
Have you ever watched a movie from the 90s that you thought was phenomenal, and then you go back and watch it again many years later, and you're like, oh my goodness. I had that experience with Broken Arrow. I remember Broken Arrow being a really cool movie whenever I saw it. I don't know how old I would have been, young. And then we watched it a number of years ago, and I was like, oh, this didn't quite age as well as I'd hoped, just, production standard-wise and so forth. Not saying it's a bad film. There's good scenes. Samantha Mathis great in it, and some of the other, but I was going to say, when I had a better memory of it than I
so the one that I watched recently that was cringe a little bit for me is it's from 2003, which was what I was just like, but Something's Gotta Give. And I know so many people love that movie with Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. And there were so many elements. I rewatched that maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And I was like, again, there were parts of it where I was like, ooh, again, just... And I can go back scene by scene.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Go figure, right?
I never saw it. I don't know.
But yeah, that was one. But to the end, I enjoyed, of course, but the beginning, and I don't know if it's cringe or if it's secondhand embarrassment, because that could also be it.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you ever get embarrassed for characters as you're watching them?
I get embarrassed for writers or actors who have to work off bad scripts more than anything. Yeah. Speaking of Jack Nicholson, that reminded me of another one of my favorite movies from the 90s, which was Mars Attacks. Such a great
I've not seen that.
Oh, you have to watch it. In fact, you have to watch it before next episode, and then we'll talk about it. If
Mars Attacks.
Total spoof on the old-timey 1960s alien invasion comics of the era. But it's got like Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Michael J. Fox. I always want to call her Carrie Bradshaw, but that's her name from Sex and the City.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker. It's got so many famous people in it. Some people just cameo. It is It's delightfully fun.
All right, I'll have to watch that. You'll have to text me the title again, just so I make sure I remember.
Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
And the
Done.
aliens in this movie are so funny. They make a very funny sound.
Okay. I don't know if I'm prepared, but I'll watch it.
Mars Attacks. All right, folks. We should go take a break, and we will come back in a couple of minutes. And when we return, we will have our guest, which we're very excited about.
Yes.
And he's currently waiting in the wings in the green room. We'll bring him on. Hollywood actor, been in 2 very exciting recent films, which we'll talk about. Right, Ginger?
That's right.
All right.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned. You're watching Good Story Live.
We built a portal connecting the Earth and the Moon.
This could end the space race before it's even begun. Your daughter is up on the Moon, and we can't get her down.
A stowaway? Alaire's a good kid. Why would she do something so reckless?
Maybe she's looking for something. Or someone.
Who? There's no one else up on the Moon.
What if there is?
Hey, folks. Welcome back to Good Story Live. Let's just jump right back into it. Ginger, why don't you do a little bit of the introduction, because you actually met Raphael and knew him long before I did.
Yeah, I did. So, Rafael Silva and I know each other from 10 years ago, which is wonderful and exciting. But really, what's more wonderful and exciting is what he's doing now. So he's a Brazilian-American actor. He is a writer, a musician. He has starred in some exciting things, like we said, like Little Women, the 2019 remake. And then recently, what was it, on Netflix, Don't Look Up, which I saw recently and loved. I can't wait to talk about that. Yeah, it was wonderful. And then I think he's also got some other exciting stuff coming up. So if you would, Rafael Silva is joining us.
Hello. Thank you so much, Ginger, Jesse. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay.
God. Wow. How are you guys?
I know.
Wow. We haven't had a guest bring this much energy to Good Story Live in a long time.
I know. I love it. But this is the energy that I remember Raphael bringing every day when I worked with him. So
it's funny because my recollection of Ginger when we used to work together was that you were the cheery one and the super upbeat one. And sometimes I'd come into work and I'm like, Ginger, can you just bring it down? I'm having a terrible day today. Okay.
And that is my memory of you. It's so funny. Like hearing that, I never knew that. So it's so funny hearing that. I love it though. Absolutely love it. And I had no idea. Maybe I did. I don't know if I had any idea at the time. I had no idea that you had any interest in acting or pursuing a career in acting. Was that always something even back then, 10 years ago?
Well, honestly, yes, it was. It was something that was kind of hidden a little bit, I would say. I started acting right around 5 or 6 years old. I started acting in like church plays, school plays type of thing. And little by little, I got to this realization of, man, I can really be someone else. I can, do all these other things here, and then people clap for you at the end, and it feels amazing. It's
rare. Not all jobs do that. Yeah.
So as a kid, I remember thinking, man, this is really cool, because I don't know how it is for a lot of the people watching, but I was not the most popular kid growing up. And so and so I wanted to just try to fit in, and by trying to fit in, right, I discovered acting, I discovered music, I discovered the arts, and man, I ended up finding myself rather than trying to fit in with anybody or trying to be anybody, anything like that. And it wasn't until later though, into my 20s, that I really, uh, I would say maybe got some courage to go, F it, let's go, let's try it, let's see what happens. If I fail, I fail miserably, and at least I tried it. I remember having this.
What was that catalyst for you? Because a couple of weeks ago, we had actress Kimmy Rutledge on, and she was talking about different moments in her life that made her think, she would watch TV and say, I could do that. I could do that better than them, or those little things that help build confidence. What was it for you that was the final straw saying, I've got to pursue this?
Yeah. So I had worked with a few creative companies and agencies before. I was working in marketing, and I was really good at what I did. I really enjoyed doing what I did, but it wasn't the thing. It just, I did it and I was good at it, but it really didn't bring that joy. It actually felt kind of cumbersome and just this heavy thing of like, man, I got to do this thing now. And so I remember going to bed one day. I was living in Florida. I was living in Fort Myers at the time. And I remember going to bed and just thinking, man, I don't want to wake up one day and be 50 years old, 60 years old, and think, I should have done that. Oh, man, I should have at least tried, And so that for me was the day that it was the kind of like that catalyst of, I want to go do something that maybe nobody's done before, but at least I'll try. And if I fail, at least I found out that I wasn't good for it and I failed, and I'll try something else at that point. But that for me was, I need to. And there was this yearning of, let's just see what happens. And little by little, one thing led to another. And, you do a short film here, you do a stage play here, you meet these people there. And all of a sudden, you're auditioning for, all these big things, and you're, oh my God, this is wow. So, yeah.
That's so cool. And one of the things that I love, like, of Jesse and I doing this show, Good Story Live, is we end up talking to a lot of people. Everybody that we've talked to has had that moment, like, of that courage to say, I don't want to be at this point down the road and look back and have that regret of never having done what I know in my bones I really want to do. So I love that.
It was crazy. So for me, I didn't have the formal education in acting or music or anything like that. I grew up in church. My parents are pastors, and so I had a very unique upbringing where I was always involved with music, with theater, with this, all of that stuff, and it was great. I think that was the thing that kind of got me hooked and got me really interested in going, oh, when I'm up here, people pay attention to what I'm doing. I can actually tell a story, and I can actually share something about what I think, what I believe, and change someone's mind or give them a different perspective or show them a different world that they've never seen before. That to me is intoxicating. That to me is just like, I want to do that for the rest of my life in whatever medium possible that is. So
that's awesome.
Love it.
That's so exciting. And I can relate to so much of what you're saying. When you have a passion for something and you start pursuing it and you take those small steps forward, when you first made it out to, did you go out to LA to find your first roles, or did they kind of find you where you were living?
So I don't have, that formal education in theater or in acting. And for a while that to me was something that mentally it held me back a little bit of like, oh, you're not like those guys. You're not like, you didn't go to this and you didn't do that and it's the voices in your head, of course.
Yep.
And quickly especially by working with people, you find out that there isn't a right way. All ways are ways. They're all ways to get to wherever you need to go. And so for me, I was like, well, how do I get some of that education? And honestly, Google. I Googled my way into being an actor. I
That's amazing.
I YouTubed, I remember a few years ago, and I still have it saved. There's this wonderful workshop by this wonderful acting teacher called Uta Hagen. She's this New York acting teacher, and she's passed away already. But I think this was recorded in like the 90s, and it's like a 3-hour session. And at least like once every year or once every 2 years, I sit down and I watch that thing from start to finish all over again. I'm like, and every single time I learn something different. Every single time there's something new, a little nugget, a new perspective, But coming from Florida, I ended up moving to Boston actually, and I moved to Boston. I lived in Massachusetts before moving to Florida, and I thought about that idea of do I go to LA? Do I go to New York? What do I do? And I wasn't as courageous to go to LA or New York. And so I said, well, Boston, I have some friends there. I have connections. I could stay with a couple buddies and see what happens. I'm close to New York. And that's exactly what sort of happened. I ended up in Boston, being able to go to New York, acting in little things here and there, doing that, da-da-da-da-da. And yeah, the ball just kind of started rolling. There's this wonderful little story that I want to tell real quick. I was working on a short film a few years ago, and this is how green I was. This was a few years ago. I was working on this short film that I found online, and the woman playing my mom, Christine Mascot, she's a wonderful actress. She looked at me and she goes, "You have a great look, you know that?" And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, I appreciate that." And she's like,
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, do you have an agent?" I'm like, No. I mean, that's like a New York or LA thing, and I live in Boston. Like, she's like, "No, honey, come here." And then she like took me under her wing, and she's like, "No. Let me spell it out for you." And so she went and she told me about the agencies in town, and she told me about the casting companies in town, and was like, she did not gatekeep. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's wonderful.
She showed me the world.
Oh my gosh.
Here it is. Go flourish. And from that point on, that led to many more opportunities. And it led to finding my agent in Boston, which led to booking Little Women. So
that's amazing. And I love it. Like I feel like we all have those there, because there are people out there that gatekeep, right?
Yeah.
In every industry. And I love that you found someone, or someone found you. You happened, right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't even asking for it. It was one of those like
organic,
right place, right time.
Yep. Now, with now, or maybe even then, when you got when you made the decision that, okay, I'm going to try and do this, was there any were you going for specific roles? Were you trying to get into specific type of acting, or did you just I'm just going to go out there and see what I can do? Yeah. How did you approach it?
I approached it as, I think I suck, so I need to get the suck out. That's how I approach it. I'm not kidding.
I love it. No, that's great.
I think every creative would agree with you on that.
Yes,
that we
need to get the suck out.
I'm like, I think I suck, so I need to get the suck out. So that means I need to do short films, I need to do student films, I need to do commercial, I need to do all these things. Because I was green. I didn't have any experience. I knew that I had this innate talent. So, I think as every creative, you recognize that about yourself. You're like, no. I'm good at what I do. I know what I do. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but I don't know this industry as well as I would want to, And so that gave me the ability to, go into some of these rooms, some of these places and just learn, just grab all of that, capture all of that experience.
That's phenomenal. And when so Little Women was earlier on in your career, let's say,
Yeah.
starting to build out. What was it like working on a period piece like that, being one of your first experiences on a production set of that set?
It was incredible, Jesse. It was incredible. So back to living in Fort Myers in Florida for a second.
Yeah.
When I was there and I was thinking and plotting the move and trying to figure out, okay, where do I want to go with my life, right? The one thing that I kept thinking was, man, I love period pieces. I'd love to be in a movie that is a period piece. And the first feature film that I booked was a period piece.
That's amazing.
So,
wow.
I'm like, wow.
I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Design this better, okay? And so it was amazing. I got an.
And I have to gush on it for a minute because I saw Little Women in 2020, and I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal from beginning to end. And I mentioned this to you off air, but I want to mention it now. You were a scene stealer when you first came into that room, and you were bringing some of the other people into the room, and you were talking. And I remembered your character later on, and I thought, as you do, you start to build an assortment of characters as you're watching a movie to watch out for later. And I thought for sure, there's going to be more of this guy, and I'm going to see him more places. And then later, I looked up your IMDb and thought, well, he's obviously, is more places. So it all is all working out. But Little Women was fantastic.
Thank you. No,
I loved it.
It's such a wonderful film. It was such a wonderful experience. It was filmed here in Boston. I mean, the story takes place in Concord, and it's about that wonderful story of Civil War era, women kind of growing up and becoming themselves. And I could not have asked for a better project to be my first feature film. I auditioned. I did a self-tape on like a random Tuesday type of thing, and actually, no, it wasn't a self-tape. It was an in-person audition because this was in 2018, 2017, something around there. And so it was an in-person audition. I went in, and I remember that I needed to go home and pack because I was going on vacation the next day. And so I almost didn't go to this audition because it was such a small role, and it was this. I didn't know what the movie was about. There was nothing. There was nothing. There was no information whatsoever.
Really?
No, nothing. There was no information whatsoever. So I'm going in blind. And actually, the role that I auditioned for was not the role that I got. I auditioned for a dancing role that I don't know if you remember. If you watch the movie, there's a part later on that dances with Saoirse Ronan, right, Joe March, and so I was supposed to be that. And so I auditioned, and like 3 months go by. Didn't hear anything, nothing. I forgot about it. Got an email randomly from my agent. Hey, they loved you for the audition. They want to do a callback. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Show up to the callback, right? So I'm sitting in the chair. I'm looking at all these other actors, and I'm like, wow, man, this is legit. Like, I'm like having this like self-awareness moment. I'm like, bro, this is legit, man. You're like, damn, this is cool. And then the casting director walks in and is like, hey guys, Greta's she's running a little behind today, but she'll be here with us. And I'm like, Greta Gerwig's gonna be here? Oh my god, the callback is with her. I love Greta Gerwig. By the way, she's directing Barbie right now.
Oh, really?
Oh my god! Look it up online. It's incredible. It's beautiful.
Okay, I'll have to do that after the show.
So I walk into the room, and there is Greta Gerwig, and I'm like, hello, hi, okay. I do my scene, right, and then she has my resume, right, with her, and then she looks up. She's like, that was wonderful. Wow, and she flips over my resume. She's like, and it says here you speak Spanish and Portuguese? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, do you want to do the scene in Spanish? Sure. Okay, do the scene in Spanish. You want to do it in Portuguese? Sure. Okay, do it in Portuguese. Which later on, I'm like, there's nobody in the room that speaks Spanish or Portuguese. So I totally like made up some, whatever.
Yeah.
I did it. It was great. And I remember leaving the room and just going, man, even if I don't book this, just the experience alone was incredible. Lady Bird had just come out not too long, And so
Mm.
this was very fresh on everybody's mind at the time. And for me, it was just like, wow, I got to hang out with the writer and director of Lady Bird. That's insane. That's so cool.
Wow. That is
So
amazing.
yeah,
Those surreal moments.
and no, and then the day of working with Saoirse, working with Greta, working with all these wonderful, 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 talented people. Man, it was incredible. To me, throughout that whole experience, I kept pinching myself and just going,
Mhm.
wow, okay, this is cool. I'm here. I made it. Wow, I know all my lines. I know my stuff. So I guess now I can just be happy and just be like, wow, look at that. Here's Crafty. Let me go get some food, you know?
I mean, for that to be the first big, right, motion picture that you book and being in the room with all of those people, it had to also be a bit of like a confidence boost or like a confirmation that like, yeah, okay, I'm in this room, I can do this. Like,
Yes. No. It totally was. The actor that played Joe March's love interest at the end, Louis
mhm.
Garrel. I can't remember his character's name.
Friedrich.
Friedrich Bart. Yes.
Friedrich, yes.
And he he he's a very well known French actor, which I've followed his career for years now. You know, I've known about him, and I didn't know. I didn't know who was playing who, and so I show up on set. Louis Garrel. Oh, hey, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Hey, oh, okay, hi. And then we're talking and just hanging out. That's what it is. You know, again, you prepare, right? So 90% of the job is preparation. 10% is on day, on set. That's that. And so we're just hanging out, and Louis like, hey, teach me some Portuguese. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll teach you some Portuguese, right? So I gave him some stuff, and he's like, no, teach me some bad words. So I teach him some bad words, right?
Yeah.
And then Greta's like, all right, we're going up for a take. So I'm like, okay, all right, let's go. So we're going up for a take, and we turn the corner, we're talking, we're having our conversation, and this guy looks at me and in the middle of the take says the bad word in Portuguese.
That's an excellent prank.
Am I not, like, you know? And I'm just looking at him, and he's smiling. I'm like, oh, he knew he was doing this.
There we go.
So I think for me, it was just this realization of, man, we're all kids here, and we're all just having fun. And obviously, yes, you know, the professional environment, and we're doing our best. But at the end of the day, come prepared and have fun. And I think that was the most beautiful thing that I learned that day, which was you got to let go of the anxiety, the nervousness. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. So make friends with it, and be like, okay, I need to go do this now. You know.
Did you take some of the same philosophy with you into the audition for Don't Look Up? Because that was, I mean, did you know the magnitude of the movie that you were applying for? Here's a couple of photos. There's one photo from one of the major scenes when you're finding out as a NASA astronaut what's going on.
Yep.
There's your co-star there. Tell us a little bit about that process.
So this was a little different because this was at the. So I auditioned for Don't Look Up right before everything closed down.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that was a self-tape, and I sent in a self-tape for that, and I didn't hear from anything or anybody maybe for like 5 months.
Wow.
I didn't. Yeah. Because right after that, the whole world shut down.
The whole world shut down.
The whole world shut down. So I was like, well, okay, I guess whatever. All I knew about that project was that it was directed by Adam McKay, which right there I was like, oh, okay, I like that, you know, and that Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio were attached. Mm-hmm. That's all I knew about it. I didn't know anything else about it because for a lot of times we'll get auditions, you know, and instead of getting the full script, it depends on the project, but instead of getting the full script, you get what's called sides. So it's just, the 1, 2, 3 pages worth of the scene. And so they send you that, you prepare that, and then you do that. But you don't have access to the full script, so you don't really know what the movie's about. You don't know really, a lot of the intricate details except for your own scene. So I did that, didn't hear for a while, and then got another email like, hey, they want to book you for this. So I had no callbacks. It was straight. They liked it. And then I remember, because it was during the pandemic, and I'm part of the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, and they had negotiated a contract to come back online, essentially, start making movies and shows again. But part of that was we had to be tested regularly and we had to quarantine. So I quarantined for 14 days. No contact with anybody, and off in a hotel alone by myself, and it was very depressing, but it was good. It was good. I did a lot of writing during that time, and then showing up on set was just very different than your usual feel, because you have the headgear, you have the mask, you have all these things on, and it's like, okay, we're going up for a take. All right, you got to take everything off, give it to someone. Everybody still has everything on, but it's just you, and it was just very surreal. It was like, wow, okay. Someone from Netflix would always check in with us and try to, is everything okay? How are you guys doing? So it was a very different experience from Little Women, for example. Or Little Women felt a little more chill, more relaxed, and this, not that it wasn't relaxed, but obviously because of COVID, it was very like, you have to follow everything to a T, and it was a very controlled environment, I guess is what I'm trying to
And that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just saying, when you, I know you had little information when you got the script. At some point, did you realize that your scene was going to be with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence?
Yes.
And what was your reaction to that?
So that was during the quarantine. I found out that during the quarantine. So I finally got the script during the quarantine. And so I'm reading through and I'm like, oh God, wow, okay, this is very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay. And at that point I FaceTimed, friends, family, and I'm like, listen, your boy here. Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. Now I have a question. And this is really, so like for me, when you're going into like scenes or when you're getting ready to roll, right?
Yep.
For me, whenever we're getting ready to go live on Good Story Live, I mentioned this before we started. I always feel the need, like I'm gonna burp. It's so silly, but I feel like it's like this last minute expel. Do you have any little like rituals or any little things where you like get jitters before you go right into rolling?
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah. So a couple little things. I think I love that though. I love that. Because it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us,
And I never have to burp. Never do I ever burp. But I'm like, oop, I feel it's right there. I can feel it. It's.
But the audience will be listening for it next time, Ginger.
Oh, totally,
so. Please.
Right.
Totally. Well, Jesse, you did tell me we have that anti-burping system on,
yes,
right?
It is. That's right next to the cough button. We're good. Yeah.
You didn't hear it, right? Okay. All right, we're good.
Nope, good.
So, So something that helps me a lot is grounding myself. So that I learned this through just therapy and meditation and just understanding psychology a little better. In those moments, I tend to feel a lot of anxiety. And so, but a lot of that anxiety is just fueled by the fear of the unknown, right? It's I'm afraid of what could maybe happen, but it's probably not going to happen. And a lot of times it's, the fear of failure or the fear of this, it's always connected to some sort of fear.
Yeah.
And so I try to center myself and ground myself by trying to just quiet my mind and just literally counting things, noticing things, bringing myself back into my body.
Getting present, for sure.
and just exactly what you just said, just feeling the present moment. A
Mm-hmm.
question that I always love to ask myself in those moments is, what is wrong right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is actually wrong right now in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And 99.9% of the time, it's nothing.
Oh yeah.
It's all in your mind. It's all in your head. And so that helps a lot to break some of that and really stay grounded, stay present. The more that you can stay out of your mind and just allow things to happen, oh, the better, the better. But it's hard because you have to trust, right?
That, and you have to have awareness too, like
Yes.
huge awareness. Like, I love that you brought this up. So, because it works also when, like, you ask the question, what is wrong right now?
Yeah.
Right. The flip side, if there is something wrong right now, what you're describing works for helping getting you out of your mind as well and
Yeah.
calming you down.
Yeah.
And the way that I do that is, what can I, if you ever need to get into your body, think of your five senses. What can I touch
Yes.
right around me? What
Yes.
can I smell? What do I taste? What do I see?
Here,
Describe the colors of the room, the textures. All of those things help get you right into your body whenever your mind is spinning.
Yeah. No. I agree because it's one of those things where it's so much. There's so much stimulation going on a lot of times, and so you're thinking about all these different things. I mentioned this earlier to Jesse. 90% of my job is done outside of set.
Mm-hmm.
90% is the preparation. 90% is the mentality, the perspective, the script work, the all of that, the learning the lines. Okay, the 10% is showing up the day of, being emotionally regulated. Being
Yes.
centered, being chilled.
Raphael, you're speaking my language. Oh
No,
my gosh.
But listen, and for everybody watching, like it does, you don't have to be an actor to do this. This is for
No.
anything in life.
Yes,
If you need to
absolutely.
be clear-minded, okay, well then do the work beforehand, so that when you have to actually do the work, you can trust yourself to just do it. So, and that
Yes.
took me a while to understand, Ginger, because especially
Me too.
it was this thing of like, no, I perfectionism. I gotta get it right. I gotta get it right. It has to be perfect. And it's like, no. It has
Mm-hmm.
to be good. Like I have to do my best. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a quick little anecdote. A few weeks ago, I was shooting a film with a few friends, and in the middle of the scene, I had prepared. I had done everything. In the middle of the scene, I blanked. I
Mm-hmm.
blanked on it was this huge monologue that I'm doing, and I blanked. And in the moment, my thought was, "You're such an idiot." I wanted to engage with the
Yeah.
negative self-talk and just that, and it was like, hang on a second, stop. And so, bring yourself right back down. Okay, we're here, we're chill, breathe, breath work. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Oh my God. Just something you mentioned earlier, awareness. Being aware of your breath I know that sounds super simple and dumb,
Yeah.
but it is. It's so good. It's so good. And
Oh
so,
yeah, my husband and I were talking about this. We were watching, and I think I mentioned this, on one of the episodes. We were watching The Flight Attendant. And it's amazing, like, going back to, like, films and shows and movies, how every piece that's part of a scene is meant to impact your sensory system. And there was music playing in one of the scenes in The Flight Attendant's first episode, and my husband was like, "Oh my god, this music is causing me to, like, get anxious."
yeah.
His breathing was short and quick. Like, you can see all of those differences, but to have that awareness.
You see,
Yes.
and so for me, on the other side of things, I love that he felt that because I'm like, I
Yeah.
did my job right. I did my job
Yes.
right. You know, so
Absolutely.
my job is to make you feel something on the other side of the screen and just feel whether it's uncomfortable or or
Mhm.
whatever. I need you to feel something. So
Oh, yeah. For sure. And now, it you mentioned, like, in that moment when you were filming that scene with your friends and you forgot the monologue, criticism, right? Self-criticism is huge, right? But I'm interested because we've asked other actors that we've had on the show, how do you handle criticism? Be that your own internal or external. And do you view it as actual criticism? Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think criticism is essential for everything that we do. It's a perspective. It's an outside perspective of what we do. Now, something that has taken me a while to learn is that, first of all, I don't take criticism well. Anyways, who does, right? But sure. It's hard. It's hard. That's the first thing that I've learned to try to cope with is I have to deal with it. I have to be open to it. And number two is I have to be selective of the voices that I'm listening to. So it's not every voice that I need to turn the volume up. Some voices I will have to turn the volume down. And I think that my responsibility as just a human being, honestly, before anything else, is, well, I gotta trust what I believe. I gotta trust what's in here. At the end of the day, I know, right? And so I'll trust that that's guiding me into the places that I need to go. And so there's times where you hear criticism and it connects, and it might hurt your ego a little bit, but there's merit. And then there's times where you hear criticism that's like, yeah, I don't know. That's not, and that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean anything about the other person. Doesn't mean anything about you. You just go, cool, that wasn't for me. You let it go, and you let it go, and you move on. You go on to the next thing. So I think for me, criticism has been this essential part of what I do. Of I can't be too critical, because if I'm too critical, then the performance doesn't come out very well. Right. It does impact the performance because it impacts me. It impacts my emotional state, right? So at the end of the day, is being selective with those voices. Is this a voice that is, being fruitful, that is leading me towards, something that I want to achieve, or is this a voice that's not quite where I want to go? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think so many people can relate to that. And even for some reason, when you mentioned that, I remembered a conversation once between Alec Baldwin and Thomas Hampson. They were discussing being in theater and on stage, and that it's important that you don't give yourself 100% to any role. Like 5% of you always needs to be in the control booth, both so you know what you're doing, and also to feed yourself that positive reinforcement, that positive information of what is true in that moment, that you're doing fine, you're saying things correctly, because the opposite can happen so quickly.
No, totally. And I love what you just said there, about the truth in the moment. And a lot of people have this misconception about acting or about any type of artistry that, you're just lying, or you're just faking it, or you're just, no. It's way beyond that. There's a belief in what I'm doing and what I'm saying, what I'm, so correct. If I don't believe that, you won't.
Right.
If I don't believe
truth and mythos, I mean, that is the truth and myth. It is extracting from a fictional element what is true and presenting it in a spectacle.
Yep. And I'm not talking about going all method and going crazy. No. Yeah. It's just about being present and allowing the truth to transcend all of that.
I love that. I wish we could chat more. We are running short on time, so I want to get in this one last question. Is there anything you can share about upcoming projects that you're allowed to share, that you can share? If not, I don't want to get you or anyone else in trouble. But I would be missed by
NDAs signed here and there. Okay, so I worked on this movie with Halle Berry last year. It comes out this year. Unfortunately, I don't know yet when it comes out. But it's called The Mothership. It'll be on Netflix. It's a wonderful film, wonderful film. Got to work with Matt Charman. He wrote Bridge of Spies a few years ago with Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. This is a feature film that he wrote and directed. Stars Halle Berry, Omari Hardwick, a few other people too. So it's
Super exciting.
a really cool film. It has this kind of sci-fi bent to it,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, really fun. So I'm excited for people to see what we made and enjoy it and go have fun, and use your imagination, get lost in the story.
When did you
Love
say
it.
that was coming out?
So
We
I
didn't have a date.
don't have a date yet. I know it's this year.
Cool.
But Netflix has been kind of very tight-lipped.
Watch for the mothership, folks.
Yes, the
Mhm.
mothership. The mothership.
Awesome. And we will have all of the links to Raphael's socials down below, as well as on goodstorylive.com. We will link to some of the projects that he's worked on, like Little Women, Don't Look Up, so you guys can check those out. It has been so fun connecting with you again, Raphael. I've loved this. Can we go? Yes. Can we not go 10 years without talking to each other again?
Definitely. Oh
Okay,
my God! No, I actually got to say, when I got your email, I saw Ginger Crosby. I'm like, I haven't seen this name in so long. This is amazing. And then I went, what does Ginger want? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
What does she want?
What
I
does
have
she
the
want?
same reaction I have whenever she sends me an email. So,
no, Ginger, Jesse, thank you so much for having me, you guys. I love what you guys are doing. Okay,
Absolutely.
this is
Thank
such
you.
a wonderful medium to just put out some good positivity, talk about the creativity and just art in general and everything that's going on in culture. I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope to be back more times and hang out with you guys.
Yes.
we'll have you
Absolutely.
back after the mothership lands, and we'll talk about that.
Totally.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Thank
And
you
Ginger's
so
going to have all
much.
those links.
Yes.
Ginger will have all the links below. You can follow Raphael and keep in touch with all the cool stuff he's doing. Thanks so much again for being on Good Story Live.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too.
Awesome.
I
Wow.
know.
So many cool things. And I love the, not only the passion he has behind it, but also there's a method to it. It's very conscientious the way you go into a role and the way you have to prepare for it in the moment, working against the greatest critic of all. There's all the critics, but ultimately they don't matter. The critic that's in your head is the hardest one to overcome. And I think there's a lot of wisdom there, folks.
Absolutely. Discernment.
Write that down in your little notebook, the wisdom from Rafael Silva there.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting. Again, the more episodes that we do, just hearing all of everybody's perspective. It's so interesting. And how everybody finds their way ultimately to the thing that lights them up. I think it's beautiful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk to someone else next week who gets lit up. Hopefully that's not a drug term.
Who are we talking to?
For the things about which they're passionate. We're talking with Sheena Manan. She's an author. She's the author of the Safety Trilogy. 2 books out of 3 have been published so far.
Wow.
And she also has a company called Stellar Media, where she helps authors and other people who are trying to get their content off the ground to give them ideas as to how to do that. So she'll be fascinating to talk to next week. Be sure to join us.
Yes.
Until then, Ginger, as always, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Have a good week, guys. We'll see you next time on Good Story Live.